Hello, Midnight TCG members. This is Midnight Fox coming to you with this week's Competitive Edge podcast. This week we have a special guest star, Dragon Duelist. Since All City King couldn't make it this week, we have Nomad on board. We have Eddie Phoenix. And as always, we have our behind-the-scenes recording guy, Jen, recording for us. So we're going to be starting a new series in the podcast, and we're going to be going over archetypes. So considering that Worlds everybody's talking about Jarrell Winston and the Exodia build, what better way to start it off than to start off with spellcasters? So kind of where we're going to start tonight on spellcasters. We're going to give our personal thoughts on the best spellcasters and why we think they're the best spellcasters. So, starting with myself, I'd say we all know that definite one of the best, DMOC, but of course it's on the ban list, Dark Magician of Chaos. Just the summoning ability and the ability to get back your spells. I'd have loved to have seen it come back on this list, but it didn't. Definitely Exodia. For all the Exodia haters out there, Jarrell proved that Exodia can still be competitive in today's meta. And probably my last top three spellcasters, I'd say... I would go with, I like Magician of Faith. So, I mean, I guess my best spellcasters, I like the ability to get spells back to your hand. I mean, there's spellcasters. So the ability to cast the magic, hey, pun intended. To recast the magic, yes. I love me some spellcasters. So, with that, we'll go ahead and pass it on to Dragon Duelist.
My favorite spellcasters are Lord of D, Lady of D, because of protect their dragon type monsters, especially if you're running a dragon deck. See, and also Dark Magician Girl, also a good spellcaster.
Oh, I had to go with her, hey.
Because I just like the way she can just power off everybody's Dark Magician that's in the graveyard. Or a Magician's Black Chaos.
Or Chaos, what's the ritual one? Doesn't that one count too for
Magician's
it?
Black Chaos.
Magician of Black Chaos, okay. I should know this.
The only good thing about Magician of Black Chaos is his attack. I'd much rather waste the time summoning a Dark Magician Knight than a Black Magician of Chaos.
Well, yeah, but it's like one of the old school cards. It's like a Yugi classic. I mean, You have to have a spot for it from that.
Well, yeah, but... Okay.
This is why I like Dark Magician Girl. It's because if you have like 3 Dark Magicians and 3 Magician of Black Chaos in your graveyard, 1,800 plus up to that, which gets up to 3,200 for Dark Magician Girl in attack points?
Konami needs to be trolls and give us 3 Dark Magician of Chaos. Then she would be really broken.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
More like broken in.
What's Dark Magician's Valkyria? Especially if 2 of them on the field.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's almost like a Marauding Captain, but for spellcasters.
Except she has a pretty decent, not great attack, but she has a better attack than Marauding Captain. But of course, Marauding Captain is a level 3 too, so.
Well, yeah. And Marauding Captain also special summons another guy, so you have like a second reason for running him. Whereas with the Magician, you have like...
Magician Circle for a trap.
Yeah. You have that, and then you have her pretty dress. And that's like the 2 reasons you run her.
All right, so we'll pass it on to Nomad then.
All right. Truthfully, I didn't really prepare a list at all for this, so I'm just gonna go with Arcanite Magician is probably my top pick. Um, Simply being because when I think of spellcasters, my main mental focus is okay. Well, I want to summon Arcanite, um, and especially if I use a card like Breaker along with it, because not only am I getting a good generic player in there, I'm also playing a card who I use prior to being a synchro material. So like an awesome play is you have Breaker and Gale, and then after you've shot off all their missiles, you play Arcanite, and it just makes it even sweeter. So Arcanite Magician is probably my top pick, and I guess by extension, Breaker, and there were Lila too. Even though I think at this point a lot of our spellcasters aren't really good because they're spellcasters, they're just good cards that happen to be spellcasters, which is why I'm pretty excited about the new spellbook cards. Uh, I think we also have Injection Fairy Lily as well, who's a spellcaster. Yeah, I like I like Injection. What about you guys? Do you guys like Injection still? I haven't ran her in like 6 years, but
I prefer Dark Paladin.
I don't think I'm going to touch that one right
Dark
now.
Paladin.
Yes.
See, I can summon Injection Fairy Lily, and I can get her to 3,400 attack,
But if,
and then get like Dimensional Prisoned, and then
I'd like to see you try to defeat Dark Paladin if I have like tons of dragons in my graveyard.
Run a hopeless dragon deck when it comes and you just splash in to the freaking paladin because he's so powerful.
yeah.
Thank you, Konami, for killing Hopeless Dragons as well. Well, Chaos Dragons, of course, had to be hit, but thanks for killing Hopeless as well.
They're not dead.
It'll still
They're
be
not
good. It'll
dead,
probably
they're just
still
limited.
it'll probably still be a top deck.
Yeah, but they had limits in my Red Darkness Mill Dragon.
So
That's why you run 3 Red Eyes Wyvern.
I only have
Yeah.
one.
we get more. It's like you need
That's
more
about
of
the
that.
only
card.
way to abuse now Hopeless Dragon is to be running 3 Red Eyes Wyvern, so you can keep bringing it back.
Yep. Plus, you can run light swarms with it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about dragons.
We're here to talk about spellcasters. Where's GMN?
I don't know what happened to that guy. I know he was always high on this stuff.
No idea, but when it comes down to spellcasters, I have to give my pick back to the original spellcaster, the Dark Magician, as being one of my favorite and powerfulest of all the spellcasters.
In terms of attack and defense?
No, I'm just saying, like, with all his support that he has. I mean, he's got Dark Magic Attack, Thousand Knives, Mystic Box, that kind of thing.
Magical hats.
Magical hats.
Did you say Mystic Fox or Mystic Box?
Mystic Box.
Mystic Fox, right?
Mystic Clocks.
Mr. Box.
Sorry.
That's his boy.
Oh,
All City's
he's a boy.
not here this week. We have to find a new target for this week.
Time Wizard. The Time Wizard. Isn't he a spellcaster?
Yes,
Yep.
Time Wizard is a spellcaster.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Right. Because I can summon him through Apprentice Magician.
Yes, so magical
Defender.
dimension as well.
Defender, the Magical Warrior.
And Old
Great.
Vindictive Magician. There are more than we thought.
Yes.
And of course, everybody's favorite, Gravekeepers. They're all spellcasters.
Keeper's Assassin.
I have to say, Visionary and Still is what really brought them back to the top. Well, of course, Defender or Descendant and Recruiter helped, but definitely when we got Visionary and we got Gravekeeper still, it
Oh
really
yeah.
pumped Gravekeepers back into the limelight again for a bit.
The
Right.
thing is, even with Visionary, it wasn't a card a lot of people ran, but like it came out as an exclusive, I believe, and it was something that really drew our attention onto the archetype. So even though the card itself wasn't around a whole lot, I do think it played a pretty good role in getting us to actually care.
I
And
hate to see the way they gave some support to some good ones like Gravekeepers and Amazonas. The one I want to see get some more support again is Harpy Ladies. I love me some Harpy Ladies,
I
but
know I love my Heartbeat Ladies too. You know what I want to see? I want to see like a new Harpy Lady card that has Harpy Lady in her name, and then
Ah,
like
never mind.
no, go on, go on.
I
I
was
want
just
to
saying,
hear this.
tunes.
Tunes. Well,
Tunes.
And
yeah,
by the
go back
way,
to original.
Tunes could be
Fox,
spellcasters.
do not disturb, Fox.
Don't we all have that for our status? I think I do.
No,
No, I'm active or whatever.
Yeah, same here.
Online.
because we're getting a lot of whoops.
Oh. Oh.
Okay.
So, penguin soldier.
Yeah.
Okay.
One
Yeah,
time do
that was
not
fine.
disturb.
Boom, boom, boom.
What the heck is that though? Anyway, like
It's the Skype going off mainly.
That's my reference to Beverly Hills Cop 2 when they're at the Playboy Mansion. Go take a look sometime. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Anybody who's seen it will get that joke right now. So, anyways, now that we have gotten past that point, staples. Kaiku, definitely a good side deck staple. Just the ability to do battle damage and remove cards if your opponent's running a Dark Arm Dragon build, especially with Teledad getting a good bump, with Emergency Teleport going up to 3. Uh, that can be a real good tech card to remove that. We still got Chaos around. Even though they bumped Chaos Sorcerer down to 1, that's really where everybody ran it anyways, maybe 2 max. So we still got Chaos. So just the ability to do battle damage and remove cards that are integral to either a recycle engine or a remove engine. Kaiku's a good side deck staple. Unless you're running pure spellcasters, then yeah, I'd definitely say in a spellcaster build, he's definitely a staple you'd want to have in there. Nomad mentioned Breaker. At one time, he was so broken, Breaker, that he was limited, but he's a definite good staple just for back row hate. Uh, if anybody has really seen Monster Mash that runs Eddie's um, Dark Magician, and you basically mash up Dark Magician with Elemental Hero Prisma, and you go into Dark Paladins and any other form of Dark Magician Knight. But if you have it built right, it's a really viable deck, but it's few and far between.
The one person I can say, if you want to see a Prisma and a Dark Magician in the same deck, go check out Dark Magician 84. He is a UK friend of mine. I was introduced to him through my buddy Natu Lord of Light, and yeah, he's both of those two are Dark Magician duelists. So we
Other than that, I mean, basically staples would be like your support as Nomad mentioned, if you're playing Light Sworns, you definitely want to have Lila inside of there just for her back row hate. I mean, spellcasters can be splashed into just about any deck, and there are multiple staples. It just really revolves around what deck you're running. Like Dragon Duelist likes Lord of D and Lady of D. She's a dragon player, so protecting her dragons is integral. So, I mean, you could take your staples anywhere, but my top two staples, I'd say, that is good either main decked or side decks is going to be your Kaiku or your Breaker. Definitely good cards to have inside of your deck. So with that, I'll pass it on to Dragon Duelist.
Oh man. Since we're talking about staples, I know a friend who basically runs a Spellcaster deck. Sometimes it's a pain to deal with. But I think one of his staples is basically it's definitely one of those cards that sometimes is a pain to get rid of. Like that. Especially the fusion he has.
I think we caught her off guard on this question.
Yeah, I kind of did.
Hooray! I have accomplished my goal. No, I'm just kidding. I promise.
Accomplished your goal. Wasn't your goal to fix the site?
Hey! I fixed it.
Because I'm thinking, like, because I'm going there and the site won't load. So I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with this.
Yeah, he does run Breaker and a side deck. But the
Breaker?
most pain, yes. But the most pain of the neck of his staple deck is this typical Chaos Sorcerer. Oh my god, it's such a pain.
Chaos Sorcerer?
Yes. Especially when we have one monster on the field.
Well, the cool thing about Chaos Sorcerer is when you drop them, if you're pretty good, you can use them as a really good bluff because it's almost an effortless play to make. And then you can gauge if they waste like a warning or something on it. Even if you don't really have a follow-up, you can kind of
Thank you for blowing.
pretend you do, and then and they don't react. You're like, "Huh, I got my sorcerer down." And then you're.
But they usually has used his effect to remove my monster from play.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you play your sorcerer, and then if they assume something more is coming, they might just wait, and then I don't know. I'm tired. And Chaos Sorcerer is cool. I like his cape.
Yeah, I can understand how inside it's almost like 11:55 here.
Well, we'll pass it on to Nomad then. Staples.
Well, I'm next. Okay.
Sure.
Well, I know Breaker and Kaiku got brought up, and I guess you could consider them staples, but it's like I would only see them as a staple in a deck that's based around a lot of really small shots. Like in these days, I'm just not seeing it being that effective. Because even if you do climb the hill, which again is very difficult, the payoff that you're going to get afterwards isn't going to be that high. So at this point, I would almost argue that there aren't any staples that are spellcasters anyway. Like, okay, well, I like Breaker, and like I can joke about Injection Fairy, really, but other than something like a Lila in Lightsworn deck or Chaos Sorcerer, I'm just not seeing it. I think in this day and age, our only, I guess, our staple cards are really our spell and traps, and our monster base is quite varied, which I think is good because it adds creativity in a sense to what the game is going to offer. But I just really don't see a card like Breaker or Kaiku being a staple or a constant anymore. And the irony is that a card like Breaker is actually extremely favorable for the new age of gaming because you play your effect and you use them up and you have your bodies still there. So I don't know. I'd like to see Breaker come back in a card that's like a main focus of me, but I'm just not seeing it at the moment.
Well, who knows what the next format's going to bring? We'll find out in just over a week.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I like how you brought up the next week kind of thing. So, to segue kind of into that with my staples, I'm going to say that Breaker's becoming a staple in almost any spell book deck, either main board or sideboard. Chaos Sorcerer, it is the yo-yo Yu-Gi-Oh card. And I've explained this one time before, so if you haven't seen it or heard it, you can hear it now. It's been everywhere on the ban list. It's been, limited, unlimited, semi, banned, the whole 9 yards.
I'll crack my joke again that it's like passed around jail.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's a card that can be ran in almost any chaos-related deck, as mentioned before. So, really, almost every deck's going to run it if it has at least, the dark and the light and whatnot.
Any other staples, Eddie?
Kaiko for me, because Dark Spellcaster has a damn good effect with, especially if you're able to hit your opponent directly, or at least cause them damage, to be able to ditch two cards from the graveyard to the out of play area. So, getting rid of those pesky Inzectors and all that other stuff that keeps coming back through, just being able to spam it and whatnot. So, yeah. That's what I mainly use Kaiko and stuff for.
And I guess we'll move on to the next one, which is what kind of support do they offer to the meta? Like I kind of talked about, mostly right now spellcasters, until we full-fledgedly have spellbook legal, mostly they do offer support. Mention again, Breaker, being able to blow up the back row, Kaiku, being able to remove Chaos Food or Dark Arm Dragon Food, etc., etc. Lila blowing up the backfield, supporting Light Sworn. About the only deck that consistently sticks with purely spellcasters and not just as a form of support is Gravekeepers. And people kind of, after we got Inzectors and Windups became huge and we got Dino Rabbit, then people went away from them. But for a while, spellcasters, Gravekeepers were running a good part of the meta with the Gravekeeper build involving the Descendant. Descendant was one of the integral cards that made that Gravekeeper build so effective versus past ones. And, back when we didn't have all the support we do have available now, Gravekeeper decks, back before Synchros and XD's monsters, Gravekeepers could be a pretty formidable deck. And most people's favorite one was, of course, Gravekeeper Spy, just for the ability to special summon. So, that's kind of my spiel on support. Kind of interested to see where the spell books take the game, what we see come out as staples in those decks, because we know that everybody's looking forward to spellbooks, so we know we're going to see the builds. So I'm kind of interested to see what people are going to splash into it. And of course, we're going to have people copying our Worlds qualifier, Jarrell Winston. So I wonder what kind of changes people are going to make. I'm going to go on record as saying that was almost an exact build of something that I was running beforehand. Although I will say Jarrell stepped up a few cards I didn't even think of and took it to a little different level and took it out of the part where I was hitting my main snag with Exodia, which was running into 6 Samurais. And he had the sideboard for that. I thought I had it, but unfortunately, with my build, 6 Sams shut it down. So with that, we'll pass it on to Dragon Duelist.
Yeah, speaking of the Exodia deck that was using a real qualifier. Oh my god, it's the worst one of the worst decks ever to go against.
And the only reason the guy got the win was pretty much stalling for time, and then he turned.
Yeah, the Exodia stall deck. That's what I call it.
But isn't that the whole point though? It's like a final countdown engine.
I'm going to say...
Except that you have less dead cards, in theory.
I'm going to say, just because I want to make sure that it doesn't seem like I'm barking off of that, you can actually go on another board. I'm not sure if I posted on my board. And you can see where I laid out pretty much almost that entire engine before it ever got stalled there. Stall Exodia was something that not a lot of people ran. The only reason I got the idea was I ran into a final countdown deck. One Day of Peace I was like, with everything else, this would be great.
Bing, idea, light bulb, meow.
Ding!
One Day of Peace is amazing. Like, that's one of the few cards that came out that actually gave me ideas for so many decks at one time. Like, Exodia and Burn Final Countdown. And it wasn't just like a random thought. It was like, hey, I could actually have 3 cards in my deck that pay for themselves and then work toward my goal. And that, I don't know. It just gave me hope, which these days is a very good thing.
So, is that your rant, Nomad?
Oh, no. I was just cutting in.
Oh, okay.
Anything else, Dragon Duelist?
Yeah, the one my friend ran, the Exodia stall, is way different from the one in the World Championship. But still a pain in the butt to face.
Well, how different was it, though? Like...
He had the worm links in there and such.
Oh, yeah, the worm. Yeah.
And that's what really gets under my skin right there.
Every end phase.
Yes. It just doesn't get under my skin.
Gets under your skin.
Yes.
It's
so annoying.
Yeah, but it's a worm, though. It's supposed to get under your skin. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point. And I like cards that work that way.
Yeah, but I only have one of my trap cards in there.
Only one trap card.
Yeah, Greed. Whoever draws us on the draw phase takes 500 points of damage. Or whatever amounts of damage. The trap card, Greed.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about the Reckless Greed, and I'm like, what? I'm like,
no, I'm talking about the trap card that does damage too.
Yeah. I know. It's just whenever I think of like a draw engine and Greed, I automatically go to Reckless Greed as kind of like an auto fix on my head. But no,
Reckless
I know
Greed.
Greed. You there already?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just saying that Reckless Greed is mainly the main staple card most people go to when it comes for greed.
Yeah, Greed is basically like a burn type thing.
Who misses Pot of Greed? I do.
I miss it.
I don't miss Pot of Greed at all, because Pot of Greed is like, okay, I'm going to shuffle my deck, and if I draw this single card, it's like I've drawn 2 of them. It's like, I want to get away from that kind of stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh! And thankfully they did. And I never want to see Pot of Greed back. I would actually sooner see something like Confiscation back. in Pot of Greed, and that's actually saying a lot, I think.
Well, I'm looking at the list, the forbidden list for September. And the only bad thing is you have 2 Mirror Force in your decks now.
Well, I kind of understand that because number one, it isn't a card that everybody plays anymore, and even if they do, they may or may not even care about running both copies. Along with that, it's kind of a balancing issue. Like, sort of like the reasons I think that we have our 2 Torrential, and we have Mirror Force, and we have Dark Hole, we have Heavy Storm. That's been legal for like 3 or 4 formats now. So it's like as our power creep increases, as our cards in their own and as in their combos will get more powerful, having a few single outs that balance our game is kind of good. So in that respect, even if I don't like
having 3 marshmallows against you.
Well, you know what though, I actually kind of like it because if you only have the 1 copy and then you see it played, then you know it's not going to happen again. But if you have 2 copies, you still kind of have to play better even later in the game.
Yeah, but it's 3 copies. You can have up to 3 copies in your deck now of Marshmallow.
Oh, Marshmallow. I don't care because like okay, so like Marshmallow's annoying and you get the burn damage, but we have like what 3 copies of Spirit Reaper for like how many formats? And who's ran 3 copies of Spirit Reaper?
Not very many people.
Exactly, and if you are running 3 copies, you probably care about its overall utility. You're caring about it being a zombie, perhaps. You might care about it having low attack, but you're probably caring about the fact of it discarding cards out of the opponent's hand. And granted, if Dark World or even Fabled is popular in your area, you're probably not thinking that way. But I mean, it's Spirit Reaper in my mind offers like so much more than Marshmallow in like almost every way. So you have that as kind of like an untapped card and an unused card. Then what's the point in having a Marshmallow on the list? And also, if you look at it from the view of like a newer player, well, a newer player is going to want to play the game with the cards that they have. If they have a whole bunch of cards that are banned or limited or at 1 or 2, they're not going to want to go and remember a huge ban list. So if I'm looking at it from Konami's standpoint, maybe simpler is better. Only like a smaller ban list is more effective too.
So
I don't know.
Shall we pass it on to Eddie then?
Woot! I just remembered another spellcaster archetype that I should have made mention a while back, but didn't. This one is infamous down at my college campus because of a friend of mine, because of his unique deck name for it, called Boobs for Game.
What?
Yes. It's the Fortune Ladies.
Oh! I totally forgot about Fortune Ladies, and I forgot about something else too that I might bring up afterwards.
Oh, yeah, Carly Carmine. Of course.
Yes, the Fortune Ladies. One of the most... With Fortune Lady, like, she is quite possibly the most spammable little thing on the planet. And a friend of mine, he gave us a freaking stupid picture of her bent over... Here, I'm going to give you guys this image too. Of her bent over the chair with a thought bubble over her head that says, "Spam me," in a seductive face.
Well, I want to see this.
Don't have an actual picture. We're just looking for someone to actually draw it. So, if anyone wants to take up reign and draw it, please do.
You know, it'd be cool if we had like a whiteboard feature in Skype.
But the Fortune Ladies being as spammable as they can be, with light, water,
fire.
Water has the little fun ability of...
Oh, I love water.
Drawing 2, and a friend and I, this same friend who has this Fortune Lady build, we have found a way to draw 20 cards in 1 turn.
Well, here's something people don't think about with Fortune Ladies that actually makes them viable is their ability to gain counters and therefore levels. So if you're looking to build a high Xyz deck, Fortune Ladies is a good deck to go with if you can keep them protected long enough to get their levels up where you want them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Also, another card that you're going to be able to spam in the spellcasters is Wonder Wand. Attach it to a spellcaster, ditch it for 2, ditch it, and the spellcaster draw 2. So basically, what you can do is if you don't have the field spell Future Visions, where when you normal summon a monster, ditch it to the out of play area until next turn, then bring it back on your standby phase. You can summon Light, attach a Wonder Wand to it, ditch it and the Wonder Wand, draw 2 because its effect goes off first, and then use Light's effect to drop in Fire, Water, Dark, Earth, or whoever you want. So you're able to just spam all of that. And also, if you wanted to, you could take, because I know we just mentioned Exodia just a little bit ago. Really, if you wanted to, instead of playing the stall version of Exodia, you can play a speed version of Exodia, a very, very speedy version of Exodia with using like Destiny Heroes and things like that. Gotta say though, when it came to the stall Exodia, gotta love seeing my old-time favorite card, Wabaku. Love me some Wabaku.
I got a question though. Sorry, go on, Fox.
Oh, back in the day, yeah, I used to run a Destiny Hero engine. It's decent, but it's not consistent enough.
Including running the 2 books, even with running things like the because now that we've got the new spell books, you can drop Royal Magical Library, then drop double summon to drop another Royal Magical Library, and then just start using the books and everything else.
Well, it might be now, but up until we've gotten the spell books, the Destiny engine of Exodia it wasn't consistent enough. Spell books, we may see a different phase of Exodia come.
Oh, I can see it. I can definitely see it. Hell, a friend of mine and I, we've already come up with a flipping formula for it. And I don't want to say anything now because, like, in case he wants to actually run it, we may go to our local, because we're getting a qualifier kind of thing in November. So, woot.
Yeah, because those people totally go and listen to this every week.
Yeah, I know. But still, it's one of those things to where there's a lot of people who I know in the game net deck, and I can see decking Gerald's.
We
are generating a fan base, though. Look at the
Yes. So shush, keeping things under wraps.
I know. I'm just kind of kidding here, and I'm like that too, because like if I'm playing a deck of regionals, I won't even mention it online because I'm just like, okay, well, if one person sees this and they mention it, and a string of people happens to end in someone I play, and I lose my element of surprise, and for me that's incredibly important, especially in the beginning.
That kind of reminds me when I went into when I ran a Dark Gaia build. Before Dark Gaia ever got big, before it ever hit, I ran that. And I waited till after the regionals to go in and post it up because, I didn't want people to get a hold of that. And it ran around, I think it's Big Peace Golem, the 2100 normal summon.
Oh, yeah.
Opponent has a monster. It ran around that and Gaia Plate, which ended up becoming staples in that deck. But this is my own little build with legendary Jiu-Jitsu masters in there for bouncage.
Jew-master.
So, but if you see something that plays out well like that, that's kind of the scary thing. You really need to test if you want to be competitive and you want to know what you really want to spend your money on. You need to go to places like duelingnetwork.com and you need to test them But then, of course, you run into the duelists even there who see a build that you're running, it's effective, and then next thing you know, oh my gosh, well, this really effective build, oh, now I see it up on this board and this board, and there's about 5 cards changed in my entire build.
It's
Thanks
gonna
for
happen
the
all the time.
credit.
It's gonna happen all the time, though. I mean, if something's effective, it's not gonna be kept a secret for very long.
No.
Like it, it might have been the case maybe 10 or 20 years ago if our exposure wasn't as high, but like at this point with like all of our tournaments and like our card game being huge, all the social media, as you mentioned, even a format of online dueling, which is so interactive, and all the forums like ours, it's hard to hide something intentionally or unintentionally. And if it's good, if it's effective at even a local type level, it's going to be found out. And like as much as I want to be the innovator, as much as I want to be the guy who discovers something, I know like realistically, if I've thought of something, a bunch of people probably have too. Um, so I don't know. I don't want to have like a pessimistic view on it, but I mean, realistically, if something is good and I thought of it, I'm not going to be the only guy who thought of it.
Yes,
Type
but
of deal.
you're probably gonna be the only guy smart enough to run it instead of trying to be the guy who's always
Oh yeah,
going.
yeah.
I'm just gonna see this deck that is online and just I'm a big meta person, so I'm just gonna net deck, and then go run it at my local. That shit gets boring. Seeing the same deck over and over and over.
That's why I hated Chaos Dragons, is because Konami made the right move in making a deck that was meta, that was cheap, but then when it overran even your locals, that's when the deck gets annoying. You know, if you go to a regionals, you expect to see that, but when they, I mean, it kind of takes you back to the day of when they released the gadget deck and just the gadget engine back before synchros got introduced into the game when gadgets first came out. The spammage that gadgets created with Monarch builds that was all you saw. Oh, I'm gonna run 3 gadgets. I'm gonna run the Cyber Dragons. I'm gonna shut you down. So it's kind of a good thing, bad thing Konami does, but I think they kind of do it because some of us look at some of these structure decks that they release and we're like, huh? Really? What are you supposed to do with this deck? Oh, it's got a few decent cards and people go out and get it just for that. But um, as far as being competitive, really the best 2 decks I would say that have come competitively from basically going out and buying 3 structure decks and tossing in some staples have been back in the day gadgets with Monarchs and Chaos Dragons. Chaos Dragons was absolutely effective.
Don't forget Dark World and
Dark World.
Dragunities as well. Which you
Dragunities.
need a few cards other than in there, and even the zombie decks. If you look back on our structures from the last maybe 4 or 5 years, a very strong amount of those are like you buy 2 or 3, even the Machina or Machina, whatever you want to call it. Those were like infamous for being. You buy 3 of those, you get a shiny card that you like to go with them, and you have a strong contender deck. And it was even one of the better decks at that time. It wasn't even just like a random tier 4 deck that somebody played and did well with, and now it's becoming hyped.
I think the worst ones are the ones based off of, no offense to 4Kids or whoever produces the show, but the ones based off of the shows. That's, like the original Zexal deck that was released. There are some good cards in it, granted, especially number 39, Utopia.
Oh,
But,
Utopia is like definition of our extra deck, wasn't it, in the beginning?
yeah. when that with the XZ's engine, that was like one of the major spammers to have out on the field is Utopias, just for his ability. But yeah, I mean,
Jin does bring up a good point. The difference between starter decks and structure decks. Zexal deck was a starter deck. A starter deck is just for something for someone to get started with. A structure deck is something that you already have in place, and you're just taking the deck and you're building into it and onto it.
the Federation of Jinzakistan with the background of Foxland. Roar!
So he's a
Good
federation
logic,
now.
Jin. Good logic.
So what about you, Dragon Duelist? What are you weighing on all this?
Oh man.
Well, you
I
were a
know.
Dragon Duelist after all, right? So
Yeah.
So you've had the dragons cut out. They've had their legs cut out from under them, proverbially. I'm pretty sure you're like me and you're upset.
yeah, but she's had since like last 20 years, ever since we had our Kaiba starter.
Yeah. Ever since the Kaiba starter deck. I've been
So was that your
collecting
first?
them.
Sorry, was that
Ever
your
since
first
it's-
deck?
Yeah. Kaiba was
Yeah.
the first deck, and Yugi, and all such. Pegasus Joey, the Kaiba Evolution, Yugi Evolution.
Pegasus deck.
Yes.
I missed the Pegasus deck, and I remember like Relinquished came out, and like our store owner and judge, he couldn't even read the text, and he had to go and get like he had to go online and like look up a version of a picture to read a text because he couldn't make out the one on the card. I always found that funny.
You know the thing that peeved me off the most, though, was how long we had to wait for Merrick's structure deck. People wanted that for years.
Yes.
Everybody loves Merrick.
Malik.
I went and outsourced a Japanese copy, and I got it for like $5 or $10 off of I think it was Card House.
It comes to find out, most of the cards, some of the cards in that deck was already banned.
I know, and it was like what? And it's like I can't use my Selkit or whatever that
You know what I
Temple of
want
the
to?
Sea Kings or whatever it's called.
You know what I want to see that we never saw come out of the original series? Who here was a fan of Bakura? And per se, he was one of Yugi's greatest opponents he ever had to face. I mean, when they ended out the series before he faced himself, he was finishing off with Bakura, who was basically the evil spirit that inhabited throughout the entire series. But yet, Bakura never got a structure deck.
I'm a little bit fan of Bakura. Only certain parts.
A little bit a fan of Bakura, or are you
Yeah.
only a fan of some of his parts?
There's only some parts I'm not a big fan of.
Only some of his parts you're a fan of, and some of them you aren't?
And the only part I like was when they were trying to get out of the dungeon or whatever. It was like being chased by a boulder. Which turned out to be a fake.
What about a boulder? Was it like a hologram, or what was it?
It was like a big balloon, but with speakers in it. A speaker in it or whatever.
That's like Team Rocket type of stuff, though. That's cool. Like,
Yeah. But the car fit right under it.
I cannot believe I actually forgot Relinquish because my friend runs a freaking Relinquish deck. That's two things I've forgotten that my friend runs tonight.
oh, it's a spellcaster too, isn't he?
I'm telling.
Yes.
Really? But
Sorry, Jack.
Herp
still
Derp
have
Relinquished. What?
I still have relinquished.
I know. I just got my third copy of like a DB1 or DB2.
You know what I'd
The
love
most
to see
readable
come
copy.
off? Thousand Eyes Restrict. Everybody's talking about Relinquished.
Oh,
Thousand
God.
Eyes Restrict would make me so happy to see come off for at least a format.
That'd be so good in Frog Monarchs.
Do they? I'll
Because
put it
you'd
like
get like,
no.
like instant fusion would become like a better brain control if Thousand Eyes came back.
Just for a format. I mean, we got.
I'd be cool with it.
Which
I'd be cool with it. I totally would.
I see where they went with Tsukiyomi it's an easy way to combat Xyz monsters because you get to dump their units when you summon her. So I kind of see where they were going on that.
Well, if you attack over it, I mean, if you just flip it, like if you just flip down and Xyz monster, it doesn't lose any materials because they're not equipped. It's a new mechanic entirely. So, like, I mean, ideally it'll be a useless material because you probably won't have your effect while you're face down. But
Oh yeah, there is a Xyz spellcaster that just came out.
Magi Magician Girl.
Magi. Oh, I know that one. A friend of mine is like
Not only
crazy
that,
over that.
Ultimate Magician.
How is that good though?
Black
It's like
Magician, yes.
Paying 200
Okay, so-
type for each spell card in your graveyard.
I know, but like, okay, so I'm still not understanding how this card is being hyped as like being the greatest thing ever because I'm just not seeing it.
What?
So Magi Magician Girl, because you take a pair of level 6 spellcasters, right?
Why do I get the feeling that GoDaddy is monitoring my typing? Because all of a sudden, wow, the site is going dong, dong, dong. Hey, they finally got it right.
Actually, you know what? I'm a retard. I'm thinking of a different card entirely. This one has like a brain control effect.
All right, well,
Okay, I get it
kind of
now.
prattling on. So, let's go on to the next part. Your most broken spellcaster-based deck, current or past. For me, I'm gonna say past. When Magical Citadel of Endymion came out, I really liked abusing Defender and Breaker and Arcanite. Just the spellcasters and the ability to pop them on there and just boom, 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 boom. I absolutely love that, but my most broken one, I'm going to say, was when I first started playing Stall Exodia. I don't know how many players I would get in there, and they would just quit because I would stall them out for so long. You know, I'd be in the middle of it, and I'd be getting close to pulling the rest of Exodia into my hand, and all of a sudden, in Dueling Networks, my opponent quit. And when I took it to locals, like I said, the only thing that could shut it down, and that's because, you know, I will give Jarrell Winston credit on that. He did find a better build to it, a better way to combat it. Six Samurais was the only thing that could shut me down just because of the back row hate. And most of the Six Sam players had their decks built right, and they were able to get out Legendary Six Samurai Shien and Great Shogun, or they get out Naturia Beast, and they would basically shut down my back row. And then they'd have like their solemn warning set for when I was trying to get my battle faders out and stuff to stall them out. So as far as my most broken one, I'd have to say it would have been Stall Exodia as far as spellcasters. I did, when Gravekeepers first come out, with the new structure deck, I did run something with Visionary, and I would get her up to 43 to 4,800 in like no time. So that was good too, but enjoyability wise, going back to the basics of the game, I'm an Exodia fan. It's one of my favorite cards. That's like the principle of Yugi. So we'll pass it on to Dragon Duelist. What's your most broken or favorite spellcaster deck, past or present?
Never had one.
Never had one?
No.
Oh, come on.
I've been trying to get around to building a spellcaster deck, but never had a chance.
Well, just make something up. Like, you're on the spot here, so make something up and go with it.
Oh, God.
Okay, we'll save her. She said she runs her dragon, so having her Lord of D's and Lady of D's in there, I guess
It's
we
a
could.
spell, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a spellcaster variant. I
They're
mean,
Yeah,
if
protection.
especially with the Prime Materia in there as well.
if Lightsworn can be like a Lightsworn and Plague Spreader, if that can be Zombie Sworn, I mean, you know,
There are so many variants. That's one thing I do like. And what you said earlier, Nomad, was true. Is that pretty much now, in, instead of monsters becoming our staples, I mean there are Insectors and other decks like that where everybody's just wanting to play tier one. But most of our staples nowadays are spells and traps, and
even Sangan. I mean,
Sangan's
there's
dropping off.
like I haven't ran a Sangan in the majority of my decks in quite a while, and it's
He's just becoming useless because most of your cards are power cards now. I
like
mean, one of my favorite tech cards is Photon Thrasher, and now with Noble Knight Gawain coming out, special summon Photon Thrasher, special summon Noble Knight Gawain, overlay. I have a number
So
39 Utopia.
I got two coins.
oh, you have two.
I want
Yeah.
Gawains. Look at my list. I want your Gawains.
I'll give you one of them.
Make it happen. Make it happen.
I've got one. I got one I'm working on with All City. So I want 3 copies because I got a build I'm working on with White Warriors. So.
That's okay. I lava golem.
I got my Neo Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon Ghost Rare.
And it can still be Lava Golem.
I'm
I
gonna
think
say
so.
my favorite. I'm really looking forward to this format, just for the fact that with Debris Dragon at 2, my junk deck got a little bit of a boost. I love me junk archer.
Yeah, we know you love your junk.
I
Our Fox
love
loves
my
his
junk.
junk. All the
All right.
variations too.
So Nomad, we'll pass it on to you.
I guess for my favorite or most brokenest spell deck, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you brought up a good point when you mentioned the Citadel card. And for me, I would almost argue that it's potentially like it's holding back spellcasters in a sense that it's like it's a very standardized card, in how it works with us spell counters. So it's almost like, to Konami's credit, that like we haven't had like an accidental broken card arise from that. Like you look at that field card, and you really have to think of like all the cards that and all the plays that you can't release, just because of how overpowered it could become. And if they're not planning on pushing it in that direction, then
Well, I mean, if you look at 3 breakers, 3 defenders, running with Magical Citadel, and looking for other cards with spellcasters, but just those 3 with those 6 cards within themselves, if you run 3 copies, you've got chaos food right there
yeah,
in your graveyard. For
and
a
in
chaos
theory,
food.
so
Run it in a solidarity build. If you're running pure spellcasters, run Arcanite in there. I mean, the
of course,
options are
Arcanine.
there.
Secret City of the. I think it's either Secret City or Hidden City of the Spellcasters.
I think it's Matt, isn't it?
Are you thinking of Secret Village of the Spell?
Yes,
There's
that's what I
2
was
of
looking
them.
for.
Secret
Thank
Village.
you.
Secret Village shuts down the spell zone as long as you have a spellcaster out.
And your opponent
Your
doesn't. I
opponent
think.
can't activate them. Magic Citadel is the one where you can stack counters, magic counters onto it, and then you can distribute it to monsters who can have counters on them. So you can use Defender, then you can move one of your counters right over onto Defender. And when it gets blown up, you just distribute them among the field.
Yeah, so it's basically heavy stormproof, unless you get it unless you chain like an MST to it. But as far as my favorite deck, I'm gonna go with Relinquished. I know that my entire deck probably isn't gonna revolve around the spellcaster, spellcaster type, but I think if you're running Relinquished, it's a pretty main focus of your deck. So, and I'm actually planning on running it again. I just haven't had time in the last few weeks to actually sit myself down and build a deck on there. So, if one
Ow!
of you guys has a build for me, I think you should point it my way. I think Kinzaki has one for me. So
Depends on what style of build you want. Do you want it to be attack focused or do you want it to be stall focused?
at this point, like I don't really want to play around with a whole lot of stall cards, but it's like even with teleport at 3 now, I might just focus more on that. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll figure this out, and
I can figure out something for you if need be.
I'll
have
run
it at least.
Relinquished, and I'll credit you. Obviously, I'll give credit where credit is due.
Okay, anyway.
So yeah, so what about you, Eddie? What's your
Mine,
favorite?
the one that I've played recently would be the new spell books. I enjoy their splashability of being able to pull not only from the deck but also be able to bounce stuff from the graveyard back to the deck. But as far as just overall, watching my friend run his stall relinquish deck to where he can make one duel go, or like one like total match go for almost an hour because he just stalls.
Oh, you see, I can't do that though, because like everyone at locals always like dumps on me for taking too long, and it's like a lot of my games even end up going into game 3, and we have to do the match procedures, and I don't know. It's a running joke at my locals that it happens to me lots, and it really does. So I'm trying to stay away from that, but it's all good.
Well, I guess to kind of finish up things tonight, Kaiou did win our Gravekeeper mat Flash tournament, so I guess we could say tonight was fitting. We're going to be sending out a spellcaster playmat tomorrow, so congratulations to Kaiou for winning our first prize Flash tournament. This one we're doing now is for a first edition secret rare Generation Force Steel Swarm Roach. First duelist to get to 100 points in the Flash tournament wins the Steel Swarm Roach. Since I didn't get around to it within the podcast, we'll just say that this week's archetype theme was pretty good, but you know the Fox, so don't think it's going to be as easy as looking at what the archetype is. You know I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the mix. But definitely tune in Tuesday. Keep an eye on the chat box for me to post up that it's starting. It can start anywhere from 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. And may the best duelist win. First place gets 25 points, second place 15. Anybody between 3 and 8 gets 5 points just for participating. Also want to thank E-Roll J coming on as our sponsors. Everybody take a look down at the bottom of the page. If you're interested in getting your own customized playmat, you can either order one of their stock images, or you can even upload your own images onto a playmat. We're looking at trying to get the Caius banner we currently have on the site put onto a playmat to give out as a prize. So definitely go visit their site, use the code MTCG 2012, and you get $5 off your order. So you can either save $5 or you can fly that $5 and get a mat tube to keep it protected.
Well, it's like you're shipping too, isn't it? Like if you're...
I think the last one I ordered, if you order, the shipping's free. actually. They don't charge
Oh,
you for
really?
shipping unless it's international.
That's still
So,
pretty good though, because I mean, if you're getting your $5 off, it's even better than free shipping. It's like free shipping and your discount.
and our partners there have contacted me. They're going to be sending some prizes my way to give away on the site. So you never know what kind of contest the Fox is going to be running, but we want to thank them for going ahead and offering us some prize support to give to the people out there as well.
Oh, definitely.
Um, it's great to have a sponsor, so we definitely want to give them a shout out and thank them for their sponsorship of our site, and we look forward to a lasting partnership with them. The Speaking of the Gravekeepers mat, that was ordered from them. The Exodia mat that we're currently giving away in our race to 8,000, that was from E-Roll J. They have some really cool mats. More recently, they've released wind-ups and rabbits and Inzector custom-made play mats. And like I said, if you just want to go on and you want to upload your own image, they're a
Also,
great place to go. They're very trustworthy, and the shipping is super fast.
Also, right quickly before we wrap up for the night, we have a fantasy football league going on the site. We need one more player. So, guys, sign up and come in. All you gotta do is email Saint Walker or PM Saint Walker your email, and we can get the fantasy draft started and get the whole thing going. So, just one more person.
And for all of you Card Fight Vanguard players out there, considering how popular the game's getting, went ahead and our Pokemon section is now Card Fight Vanguard and other trading card games because, to be honest, it's an up and coming game. So I am looking to fill a mod spot. So if you're knowledgeable in the game, you know the rulings, you know the cards, you're willing to help create content, watch over the area, take a look in our important announcements area, fill out a mod application, send it to myself and SM, and you just might find yourself in a mod spot if you're active, you're professional. Pretty much the basis is laid out in there of what's expected of you. So definitely have a look in that section. And for tonight, since we did have a special guest star, we'll let her take us off the air tonight. So Dragon Duelist, take it away.
Thank you for listening to the Midnight Podcast and have a good day.